Hello. Hi. Peace, peace, peace. Thank you for tuning in again. This is my channel. My name is Aurora Divine, and I go by Divine Intuition here on YouTube. I have a great video today, and this video is inspired by the movie Cruella. And the reason that I decided to use this as a topic today is because I recently was watching the movie and I tapped into the movie so deeply that I started dissecting the movie, and I wanted to go ahead and present it in a way where we can get the metaphysical understanding of Cruella and the actual message that's involved in this movie. However, before anything, I do want to go ahead and let everyone know before we even start talking about the movie, that there are going to be spoiler alerts. Okay, fam? I do apologize in advance, but yes, there is going to be spoiler alerts. I am doing that now before anything. And so before we start to get into Cruella, I do have a reference point of a, let's say, a summary recap, right? That we're going to go through. And as we're going through the summary recap, I'm going to go ahead and point out the things that stood out to me, the metaphysical meanings of things, and the relation between another movie that I actually found, which was very closely to this movie. And I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware of the Devil Wears Prada. In this movie recap that we will be viewing, I will also be pointing out the symbolic meanings of certain things as what caught my eye. And yeah, I can't wait for you guys to dissect this with me. So let's get started real quick. I want to go ahead and jump into it. So let's do that together. Actually, let's go ahead and let's see. So we are going to think movie story for this recap. They did a wonderful job. It's about a 10-minute movie recap. However, it's well worth it. So they do a great job. Now, again, this is just a recap of an over an hour movie. So we can't really get the full movie through it, but they do a good job anyways. And I wanted to give their recognition and credit. So let's jump into it real quick. Again, this is the movie Cruella. All right. Before we start the movie, I want to go back and say that this was around like the punk kind of rock era, right? And you'll see a lot of the style and the fashion that Cruella wears are really bold, kind of like British rock or British punk type of style. So I would consider her a revolutionist, a fashion revolutionist, but nonetheless very much on the teetering point of a genius, which she actually describes herself to be. Um, but there is someone that she relays, or how can I say, she gets all of these traits from her biological mother. So let's get into it. Like I said, I will be going into detail about this movie, but it's at a metaphysical viewing, And let's get into it. So, starting off.
In 1964, a young girl named Estella was born with her hair half black and half white. She has always had a creative passion and a rather feisty personality. Her mother Catherine notices and nicknames her Cruella. Catherine brings Estella to a private school where she promises to behave. However, the other children mock her because of her hair, and her only friend is another girl named Anita.
All right. So, first and foremost, let's go back real quick because I wanted to pause it real quick. So, Cruella has half white hair, half black hair. Some can call that a birthmark, right? So she was marked at birth. Now, there is a point in the movie which, like I said, this is a summary. And so they do the best that they can to kind of sum up an hour-long video into 10 minutes, which I think is pretty hard to do. However, there is a point where Cruella's adoptive mother, and this is still early on in the beginning, so she doesn't know that she's pretty much adopted, right? But her adoptive mother is pushing Estella because her name is Estella, and I think that that's very indicative of another aspect of her, right? So you have Estella, who is her ego self, and you have Cruella because her creative, passionate, and feisty self would actually be her natural self. Now, you don't catch this until later on in the movie. However, in order for me to specify the, if you want to say, yin and yang sides of her, the yin would be the mother, the yang would be the father essence, so like black and white. The black part of her is Cruella, and the white aspect of her is Estella. However, it's ironic enough, right, that the form that people want her to take is Estella, but Estella is associated with the white hair. However, what is more accepted would be the black hair. So I just thought that that was a nice introduction to like the polarity, the overlapping of polarities, which kind of shows the intricacy of the complexity of who Cruella or Estella underneath being Estella really is. And so, as they were showing, she doesn't make friends and she only has one friend, and her one friend is Anita. And she gets bullied, but she does the bullying. Do not let this little girl fool you. So,
Along with a dog she finds and names Buddy. After causing much mischief throughout her time at the school, Estella is expelled. Catherine laments.
all right, another thing. So, Estella walks into school. She goes into the school. All of the students have to wear a uniform. However, she flips her jacket inside out, and her jacket is designed to her, like how she custom designed her own jacket. Again, as I was saying, Estella was marked to be different. You could say she was marked to stand out because first and foremost, what made her stand out was her hair. And so she was marked to stand out, not to blend in. And it's almost like she intuitively knows that she's not ordinary. She's not normal. But in a sense of she understands that she's not meant to blend in. Okay. So she gets expelled because she is a rebel. She has this unauthoritative, I don't take shit type of attitude. And her attitude is that of a non conforming spirit. Okay. And that shows. So she gets expelled because she constantly is getting into, fights and problems in school. And actually, her mother, she doesn't get expelled. That's actually inaccurate. What happens is that she is full of like all of these blots. They call them blots. Interestingly enough, it's called a blot. But she ends up having like so many on her record that she could no longer go to school there. But just at the moment that the, I don't know, head of year decides to, or the principal, whatever you want to call him, um, wants to go ahead and expel her, her mother withdraws her out of the school. So let's keep watching.
Their situation and goes to ask for help from her employer, who is hosting a winter ball at their estate, Hellman Hall. Catherine instructs Estella to stay in the car, but she steps out for a moment to observe the party. Estella and Buddy sneak into the mansion, where Estella, who has always had a love for fashion, is in awe of all the gowns and dresses at the ball. Unfortunately, Buddy gets out, and after Estella chases after him, she is found by a valet named John. Estella escapes him, and Buddy is chased by 3 vicious Dalmatians. Estella runs outside, where Catherine is talking to her employer, Baroness von Hellman. The Dalmatians run past Estella and pounce on Catherine hard enough.
All right. So, as the summary was speaking, Estella has a passion for fashion. Another thing about fashion is its accents, right? It's individualization. So she is creating her identity very, very early on, while for some individual souls, or, it's they actually end up developing their identity later on in life, where it takes them some time. The one thing that I could say is Estella's adopted mother, which is who you see right now, um, she does not project, I mean, how can I say this? She does not project her own like ideals into Estella. She actually allows Estella to be who Estella naturally is. However, she noticed that Estella has a bit of a mean side, a bit of a feistier side to her. And that's who she calls Cruella. Okay. So, mind you, this nurturing lady takes on the role as Estella's mother. However, Estella will learn slightly after, um, or long after, that Catherine is not her mother. So let's keep watching real quick.
To push her over the edge of a cliff to her death, which Estella witnesses. The partygoers go outside to see what happened, with the Baroness lying and claiming that Catherine was trying to accost her for money. Estella runs with Buddy and travels in a garbage truck. Estella makes it to Regent's Park in London, where she had wanted to go with her mother, and she realizes that she is missing the necklace her mother had given her to hold on to. She falls asleep by the fountain, and is found the next morning by 2 delinquent boys, brothers Horace and Jasper Baden, along with their
All right. So here comes a lot of the symbolism. So we have Catherine who falls to her death, right? She gets um, basically murdered at the request of the Baron, um, which is the lady in the fancy dress, which we'll soon see what role she actually does play. And then you have Estella who goes to Regent's Park and she falls asleep at this fountain. Now, I was doing some research about fountains, and interestingly enough, I found something that I needed to speak on. And so the um, the symbolic meaning of water fountains plays many roles. However, a fountain represents a sacred opening, gap, or tunnel which is connected to eternity itself, right? It's also um, it plays the role as well as to the depths of our own being. Um, that's one context, right? Another one is like the water constantly in flow, right? And so fountains always have a water that is constantly in movement, right? And so that also is said to have spiritual representation. Um, so another thing is that water represents wisdom, peace, and purity. And so a lot of times there's it's the fact that like being in water probably makes her feel closer to that mother, as well as water is a very emotional type of connection, but water also is to the divine feminine, right? And it's also symbolic of spirit. So there's a lot of reasons as to why she chooses this fountain in particular, but another main factor is that fountains, just like this one, it's also a symbol in art. Like it's also a symbol of art. And I feel like a lot of this comes into play of what makes her comfortable is aspects of her, but she goes to this fountain and she speaks to this fountain later on in the movie as if she's speaking to her mother. So there's something about this fountain that brings her peace and comfort, just like her mother did. So then you have the two brothers, right? And Horace and Jasper, right? Well, Jasper is a crystal, and Horace reminds me of Horus, Horus, which we could go into that, but I don't want to go too deep into that. But if you notice, their name was Badam, like two of them bad together, bad. So now we're getting into like what we would consider like a dark chaos energy, if you will. Um, there's a correlation between darkness and chaos energy, and these two are orphans. And so she is actually an orphan herself. So let's keep going.
Their dog Wink. They are trying to swipe from the fountain when they meet Estella. Jasper determines that she doesn't have a family, and the three run away together when an officer catches them. Estella joins the boys at their hideout, and Jasper tells Horace that they should keep her around, because having a girl might make her seem like an innocent distraction to people they plan to rob. Estella dyes her hair to go along with the schemes and be unrecognizable. 10 years later, Estella continues to pull off crimes with
All right. So I'm pausing and I know it's going to take a little bit, but this the reason that I'm kind of deciphering everything that comes up so that we can get a better and deeper understanding. Now, yes, we're only 2 minutes in. However, this is only a 10-minute video, so that kind of works um to my favor, right? And so as you can see, she actually ends up running away because the cop was going to grab all three of them since she was sleeping there. It's what you would call guilty by association, right? And so she has no one. And that's what Horace, which was the smaller kid with the hat, um, he was the one who was perceptive. And she actually called both of them annoying in the movie. Um, yeah, in the overall movie. So she follows them and she finds their hideout. And so she ends up staying with them and she becomes part of the crew. Now, the whole time that because they all don't have parents, and that's the one thing that ties them together now, is that they all lost their parents. Um, Estella never knew her father. She only knew of Catherine, which was her mother. And there's a point where Estella is crying, and I'm sorry, Horace tells Jasper she's crying because she lost her mom. You remember, right? You know that feeling, like he's the more empathetic one. They're both very empathetic. However, Jasper is slightly more uh blunt, I guess, or outspoken. However, Horace is the one who is always trying to have a understanding, like he's always very empathetic um to Estella. And so I personally believe that he has a little bit of a weakness for Estella. Basically, like he can see himself in Estella, so it's like a reflection in a sense. So 10 years later, if you saw last, Estella goes and she dyes her hair because she can't blend in if she stands out. And now in this time frame, she is blending in so she won't stand out based off of being thieves.
Horace and Jasper. To support themselves, Estella also continues to work on her fashion ideas. On Estella's birthday, the brothers surprise her with a job for the Liberty Department store downtown. Since Jasper had noticed her always staring at the place, she is very grateful to
Now, Liberty. I thought that that was very interesting, right? And so Liberty is like what Macy's, or, not even Macy's, Bloomingdale's would be, Saks Fifth Avenue would be in London. However, Saks and Bloomingdale's, they only deal with high quality fashion. This is something similar to what Liberty is. Um, so she always idolizes these billboards that have Liberty advertisements on display, and it's basically what you would call like I said, it's a very prestigious, fashion forward store. And so they kind of go ahead and they throw in some paperwork, fudges her, resume, and she got in. And mind you, she was the brains behind all of the costumes and a lot of ideas. Now, interestingly enough, they always have an angle. Keep that in mind, right? There's always an angle. Now, when we speak of angles, we speak of different perspectives, like what's the angle? Yes, angles are associated to angels, but in this movie, I feel like angles are vindicative of angles of thought, right? So what are you thinking? They'll say, "What's the angle?" Basically, okay, so what's the plan? What are you thinking? Okay? What is your thoughts? Like, where are we going with this? And they use that a lot in this movie, which I thought was pretty interesting. But angles are just a different way of seeing things, right? So let's keep watching because this is a lot to kind of unfold.
for them. Estella begins working at Liberty as a cleaning woman for a rotten boss named Gerald. He never gives Estella a chance to present her
Mhm.
ideas and treats her awfully. Horace and Jasper bring her lunch, and Horace thinks the place can be robbed, but Estella
Right.
wants to work honestly, only to
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. Sorry, fam. So Horace is the heavier set. Jasper is the one who has a little bit of a weak spot for Estella. Um, that's who I was speaking about. So I got them confused. My bad. But let's keep going.
have the trash she is taking out get poured onto her when the bag rips open. Gerald then brings her back in and tells her to clean overnight.
Her
She
face.
steals a liquor bottle from his office that night and goes to the window display, which Estella finds hideous. Estella wakes up hungover.
Okay, so it came to a point where Estella has more, she understands her gift and she understands how her eye, right? Like she's a visionary. This is the best way to say this. She is a visionary. She can take something and create something completely that transcends like things in the current time, right? Um that's the best way that I can explain this. And so she went to Liberty because she wanted to work her way up. However, the boss wasn't giving her the chance to express herself, to express her creativity. She like to express her, her sewing, her skills. So her creativity, her skills, her vision. There were a lot of things that she has as a person that a lot of us do that we don't get the chance to actually express. And this is the main reason why she took it upon herself. And it's like a boiling pot, right? Um, it gets to the point where it's so hot that it's gonna overboil and it's gonna boil off to the sides, because it's like an expression of self that needs to come out. It needs to come out, like there's no containing something like that. And so this is exactly what happens. She gets drunk, and she takes it upon herself to redo it.
By the window with Horace, Jasper, and other patrons who are seeing the display, which Estella changed
Look at
radically
that.
to appeal more to her style. Gerald sees and prepares to fire Estella until he is informed that the Baroness, who owns the store, is arriving. Estella hides with Horace and Jasper, who proceed to nick
Okay, mind you guys, this is the same baroness, right? Um, that was in the beginning of the movie. But remember, she doesn't really recall that.
Gerald's wallet and grab a few goodies. The
Huh,
Baroness asks who did the window
fair enough.
display, which she actually likes. Gerald says that Estella is the culprit and is being fired, but she instead tells her assistant Jeffrey to give Estella her
What
business card. Estella runs off with the Baduns in celebration of moving on up. Estella
a
begins to work at
dunce
the House
that.
of Baroness, coming up with dress ideas and designs. She sees very quickly that the Baroness is a cold and soulless woman. She
Mm,
only critiques the work of her employers and has rather sociopathic tendencies.
okay, so soulless woman. Okay, there is a psychology about narcissists, right? And we'll get into it once it kind of reveals more. But when you're soulless, there's no compassion, there's no empathy, there's nothing that is warm about you. Everything is cold, everything is calculated, everything is precise, everything is like there's no emotion, there's nothing that would grant this lady to be human, you know? Uh you see some people and you just feel like there's nothing behind the eyes. There's this term, right? And I ended up kind of so I ended up interviewing some people for work, and in the interviewing process while I was, hiring my staff, there were some like you could see, and this is kind of the first time that I've ever really had this problem. But you know how they say that, like, and maybe family, y'all haven't heard this yet, but like we have like, I don't know how many billion people on earth, right? But like so many billion are not even human. Um, yeah, I've met a few of those people that are not even human. Um, there was one girl that was just a shell, like I literally will say this. She just felt like she was a shell, and it was pretty bad. Um, and she had like really, really delayed responses. So like she would be looking at one person, I'm over here talking to her, and she would be talking, but then like she would like has like I don't know, it was just like it felt very robotic in a way, but I don't even want to say that this girl was robotic. I just that soulless energy, man, like you feel it. But this is what you would call a full-blown narcissist.
such as using a razor to cut the sleeves off Estella's design, and not care when she accidentally nicks Estella's hand. After work, she stops by a shop operated by a man named Artie, who quickly befriends Estella since she likes his fashion sense.
Artie is what you would call um an androgynous person, right? The reason why I call him androgynous is because RE is what you would classify as someone who is in tune with his masculine and feminine self, understanding that he is a masculine, however, is very in touch with his feminine self. Some people would call him a drag queen. Um, I feel like he would be considered androgynous, and that androgynous energy um, definitely like and again, if you look at his style, it's very British punk. It's very within that era. I'm trying to remember. I'm trying to remember some bands or whatever, but I'm not gonna waste my time. We're gonna keep rolling.
She also notices a red dress made by the Baroness in the window. Throughout her time working, Estella shows the Baroness that she truly does have a talent for fashion. However, Estella changes her tune toward the Baroness when she sees that she is wearing her mother's necklace, despite the Baroness claiming it is a family heirloom. When she tells Estella that a former employer tried to rob her and then fell off a cliff,
Hmm.
Estella begins to feel pure hatred for the Baroness. Estella brings the news to Horace and Jasper, seeing it as an opportunity to pull off a heist, especially seeing as how the Baroness is set to host an upcoming gala. Estella memorizes the Baroness's schedule and how the guards work and move around to plan for the heist.
Okay, so another thing, right, is her glasses. Now, Estella doesn't necessarily need to wear glasses, and I thought that this was pretty interesting. Now, we can tend to hide behind glasses. Like for me, in instance, like my glasses are prescription. However, I will be honest, when I wear glasses, there is something about my glasses that makes me feel like I am. Like it takes up a little more of my face. And wearing glasses for some people, it actually changes your look. And so again, this is what you would call um a look that she is kind of masking to the world, right? So the red hair, it's not her true identity. The glasses, it's not her true identity. So again, when we're speaking about ego, we're speaking about the mask we wear that we present to the world, to others. And so ego could also be like a form of domination, which a lot of people will, express that ego is very much so like a very dominating energy. But what's dominating about the ego is the mask that you have to wear. And so again, Estella was not born with red hair, okay? Estella does not need to wear glasses. She wears glasses to fit in to what she feels um, is a sense of her identity. And I quote that in quotations because that's kind of what ego is in a sense. Ego is what we identify with, not who we truly are. And who we truly are, you have to peel back a lot of things. And that's we're getting to the overall expression of what this movie really hits home with. And I started realizing that this movie is so much more deeper than what I gave it credit for. Very much so like The Devil Wears Prada, right? So it's very much the same thing where Andy Sachs, she goes in for a job and she has to go to Vogue. Out of all places, she goes to Vogue, but she only wants to get her um she wants a reference from Vogue so that she can go and, be able to go to any journaling company, and she'd be able to get a job because she has like a very prestigious type of reference, and that's what's going to get her the job. So she came in with a plan already. Now it's kind of very similar to Cruella because Cruella didn't really like, her plan was fashion. But then when she saw the necklace that her mom had, um, and that her mom was gonna give her Catherine, the one who passed away in the beginning of the movie. Pardon. She ends up changing and she ends up now having a plan. So that's an angle, right? We were just talking about angles. Right. So another thing too, right? And this is what I wanted to say. So there is an overall energy that goes back to um, the Kabbalah tree of life. And this is what this overall energy of this movie goes back to. And the only reason why I know this is because I'm actually studying and working with the Kabbalah tree of life. Now, there is the Kabbalah tree of life, which is the front side, and then you have the back side, um, which some might show the back side like this, like up and then down or whatever. Um, Here, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But there's every angle. So anytime they say angle, it's really an expression of angels, but there are like archetypes. So here, this is what it looks like. All right. Real quick. My bad. I'm going to show you family what it looks like. Um, all right. And so this would be considered the tree of life, right? The branches, the leaves, while the roots of the tree is considered the tree of death. And this all plays a very important part, okay, in this movie. And we'll definitely get to it. What is the tree of life? Would I think also consists of the tree of illumination, or there's another word for it. And this is actually the tree of illumination. So this is the tree of, well, we can just say this is the tree of light, and then this is the tree of dark, right? Dark because this is considered the roots, and within the roots, soil covers the roots of any tree, of any plant. So in fact, you're dealing with, when people say go to the root of things, this is what they're really speaking about, right? When people are talking about bearing fruit, these are kind of like the terminologies of where all of this stuff comes from. So I wanted to just share that real quick. Now let's get back to what we were watching. All right.
She knows that she will be recognized if she tries to attend, but she knows someone who can arrive. On the night of the gala, Horace and Jasper sneak into the building under the guise of pest
They're
exterminators,
funny.
using Wink as a fake rat. Jasper makes his way to the security cameras as the heist commences. Estella leaves her wig off and retains her natural hair, showing up in disguise as Cruella. And where
Woo! Okay, so the whole time they just said the whole time that red hair. Here's another. Here is something else, y'all. Red hair, and now she's wearing a red dress. There is something called the Scarlet Woman. That's very much so. Here, let's Google this. The Scarlet Woman. All right. The Scarlet Woman. Let's do meaning. Let's see if this comes up. In Kabbalah, working with the tree of life, working with the tree of death, okay? Working with the light aspect, the dark aspect. It's really the dark aspect that is where the Scarlet Woman shows up. Now, I'm going to have to put okay, so look at this. The dictionary.com definition for the Scarlet Woman, right? It says, to the non-compromiser, the Scarlet Woman is a symbol of the lowest depth of vice, and no condemnation is too severe for her. That sounds about accurate. Now with that, we can go ahead and we can apply that to Cruella, because Cruella really is the definition of the Scarlet Woman in this movie. And I'm trying to see if there's more, like, one minute. Bam. So interesting, right? So in Kabbalah tree, tree of life, and the clip off, which would be the tree of death or the roots. What comes up is the Scarlet Woman and the Scarlet Beast. Now, I've been doing some research. I haven't really gotten as far with this topic. However, we could literally say that it's the Scarlet Woman is also known as the Great Mother or the Mother of Abominations, right? And she's actually considered the goddess Babylon. Babylon. And it says that the goddess can be found in the occult system of dilemma. Now, if anyone knows what that really is from, we're speaking about dilemma being that of which Aleister Crowley was speaking about. He kind of created him and I think a few other people this cult understanding of tapping into the clip off side of things, and very much so the 7-pointed star, that's what they're very much speaking on, right? This 7 energy, which would be 7 sevens, Now, funny enough, I had just posted something yesterday because I saw 5 sevens. So this is right in that energy. Um, but so she's indicative of the Scarlet Woman. Now, she embodies the energy of the Scarlet Woman. Okay. Now, this is why this is so important because this is the first time that Cruella comes out, right? And I would say that when you reach the Scarlet Woman in the Clipothic tree, in the clip off, you're at a very high ranking. Um, as far as going through the initiatory path. So she embodies the energy of the Scarlet Woman. However, this is her kind of um, exposing that Scarlet Woman energy for the first time. Her hair shows it, yes, but this is her first um, expression of the Scarlet Woman. This is what I was trying to say. So here, let me press play real quick.
Wearing the Baroness's dress she saw in Artie's shop, she stuns everyone in attendance, including the typically unimpressed Baroness. Also viewing and astonished is Anita, who is a journalist and recognizes Estella from her hair. Estella subdues the Baroness's guards before having a seat with the Baroness. When Horace approaches the safe with the necklace, he finds it empty, and Estella sees that the Baroness is wearing it. Just as the Baroness realizes Cruella is
Mm.
trespassing, Jasper sets off some rats into the party, causing a distraction that allows Estella to snatch the necklace off the Baroness and give it to Buddy. Unfortunately, the Baroness's Dalmatians come out, and one of them swallows it after trying to take it back from.
Y'all, in real life, Dalmatians are not cute. They're actually pretty vicious. So I really like the fact that they kind of showed how aggressive Dalmatians really are. Because in the old 101 Dalmatians, 102 Dalmatians, whatever, um, they would show Dalmatians like really cute and soft and gentle, but they're nothing like that. This is more of an accurate showing of Dalmatians, but that's just a side bit.
From Buddy. Estella sees that the Baroness is using a whistle to control the dogs, which is what she also used when Catherine died, meaning the Baroness deliberately called upon her dogs to kill Catherine. After their truck is towed, Estella hotwires a car to get away with the Baduns and their dogs. Estella stops and cries over the fact that her boss murdered her mother.
All right, y'all. So there's a lot to unravel just in that part. The whistle, right? This is a whistle that dogs can hear. The dog whistle. Almost kind of like when I said whistle, I heard like the dog whisper. But she can command those dogs. Those dogs are like her bodyguards, and they're three. Now, funny about these dogs, and this is kind of going to lead me into my next movie that I want to break down. The next movie is going to be here. Let me bring it up real quick. So, okay. This is the next movie I'm going to be talking about because it's Across the Spider-Verse. Yeah. So interestingly enough, right, we're speaking about spots. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you what I am going to be tapping into next, and y'all ain't ready. That's all I'm saying. This character right here, okay? This is the spot. Now, this character right here is going to be a whole deep conversation because there's something about spots, right? Which is why the Baroness decides to have 3 Dalmatians that have, 3 dogs, but essentially Dalmatians. And so spots, like, yeah, I'm just saying, y'all. Like the symbology goes really deep here. Um, Let me go back to what we're doing. But to me personally, like the Baron, the fact that she has 3 Dalmatians, again, um, the 3 and she is the 1. And so like you could definitely say that those 3 Dalmatians are like her bodyguards, right? I also, if you notice, they're not black on they're not white spots on black dogs. They're black spots on white dogs, meaning that they're more aggressive in like a authoritative sense, right? And so like she is that authority. Blowing the whistle is asserting her authority, but like a whistle is just another, it's like a trigger, you know what I'm saying? Um and funny enough, and this is kind of like a correlation. I shouldn't even be correlating it so early on, but like the correlation from the Spot, the villain that I showed you from Spider-Man, he can't control his spots. You know what I'm saying? Like a spot can be like anywhere, you know? Like, oh, let's go to the next chill spot. Let's go find a spot. Like, but a spot could also, like, a spot is also a representation of a black hole. And that's the next, I don't want to give too much, but there's so much about spots, right? And the contrast. Now, again, it'll show, it'll definitely show as to why Cruella gets the bad rep that she does about Dalmatians, from this origin story, because this is the origin story of Cruella, and I absolutely love origin stories. Like, I love getting into the vastness and complexity of every villain, because if you actually really look at it, man, every villain has a story, like such a complex and deep story. Um, as I'm talking about this, the if anyone's actually read into Metatron, like from uh, Transformers, Metatron's story is it's so sad. Like Metatron's story is actually not one that is portrayed accurately and correctly. Metatron was actually what you would call like the black sheep. Like he was tossed away. The comics are actually different from what we're actually seeing, and it's the same thing, okay? So the reason why, right, villains actually end up becoming villains is because there is like it's almost like there's no place for them in society or in whatever setting or society, right? Well, how can I say this? Like for Metatron, right? From what I've gathered from what my like I was reading, Metatron was actually pushed out of, he wasn't pushed out of Cybertron, but he was like pushed out of um a council. And he was supposed to be that next he was supposed to be in like a high council or something like that, and he actually got pushed out. Um Now the Baroness actually gave up her daughter, and so she got pushed out. She got pushed out of, you know, the means of being able to be accepted. And this is why a lot of villains or a lot of characters, people become villains, is because they're not accepted in some way. Like they get rejected, right? Rejection causes a lot of things to happen, but rejection is like rejection gets things in movement, right? It's very interesting whether that movement be on the negative polarity, it still gets shit in motion, right? And so rejection from, in this case, Cruella's mom, which is actually not Catherine, right? We haven't gotten there yet, but the Baron, uh, the the Baroness is actually her mother, and so she gets pushed out of. Well, let's just finish. But all I'm saying is now she's coming to the conclusion that she shouldn't feel responsible. She felt responsible for her mother's death, which was Catherine, her adopted mother. And so this is the part where she starts to get even. And this is from what I started seeing that um she actually starts to open up to Cruella. She allows Cruella to kind of take over, and she starts staying in that energy of Cruella, which is really who she really is. So let's keep going real quick because we only got like 5 more minutes.
The next morning, Estella is still acting as her Cruella persona, ordering Horace and Jasper to steal the Baroness's dogs so one of them can pass the necklace. Estella then goes off to Anita's workplace, still as Cruella, and asks her to get the word out about her personal exploits. Meanwhile, Horace and Jasper find the
All right. Now, I know you guys saw something that I did. Do you see how pale she looks? All right. So it is said that in the Clipothic realm, there is what you would call like, okay, here's an even better one, right? So there's a lot of celebrities. And I'm gonna just tie this all together why I'm picking out her skin tone, her fairness. Okay, so there are a lot of celebrities that I honestly personally feel that a lot of celebrities, um, when you notice that they're doing a lot of demonic things in their videos and stuff like that, this is going to go back to them working the Clipothic realm. And the Clipothic realm is what I was showing. Here, let me actually pull it up again. Because I pulled something else up in that manner. All right, I'm going to pull up the same one for a reason so that everyone can see what I am showing them and where I'm coming from with all of this. So this aspect right here, okay, tree of life, tree of death, right? Same thing, tree of life, tree of death. All right. Unfortunately, okay, perfect. All right. And so the reason that I'm actually showing everyone this is because you see this. This is what you're going to call the satanic pentacle, whatever, right? The inverted pentacle. This is what you would call like the Star of David or the hexagram. Oh, sorry. 1 minute. I guess it didn't. I realized that it pulled up to a different one. So just 1 minute. Bam. So many freaking things. All right. So this is what I was saying. So you'll see on this this diagram that you have the inverted pentagram, right? And so a lot of people will be like, oh, that's, a satanic and whatever the case may be, right? So have you noticed that a lot of celebrities, when they do certain rituals, it almost seems like they're doing like a lot of rituals based in the Satanism, right? Or what a lot of us will interchangeably use Satanistic and Luciferian type of practices, which is not really accurate. But that's not what this whole aspect is what I'm trying to show you guys. What I'm trying to show is that the fact is when you see a lot of celebrities doing rituals, it's because they're actually working this tree. This is the tree of real illumination, right? This is kind of what would be considered like, I almost want to say like, I don't know. I want to say it's really like ego, because there's so many archetypes, and so it's like you are actually going through the archetypes, you know? But now so celebrities start working with this tree, and this is the initiation that they start going through. There's a certain point where I've watched documentaries from like, ex masons and whatever else, and they and it's not unheard of, right? But there's always a point where anyone who's working this initiation process down here, they always get to a point where they have to decide whether like they're going to become a vampire or they're going to become a werewolf or something of that degree. There's always a fork in the road, right? And so I can name like a couple of artists that I started realizing, wow, there's a lot of vampire type of um symbolism, or they're just straight wearing, or they're just straight showing themselves as vampires, very pale skin, right? And so that's another association to the Clipothic realm. So that's what I was trying to show with her fair skin. So her true identity lies down here in the Clipothic realm. Estella is her up here. Uh, my bad. So Cruella, Estella's real identity, right, is actually who she is down here. So this is her real illuminated self, right? Um, and then you see the hangman, which is associated to the roots, and we'll get into what the hangman really means. However, then you'll see that Estella is associated to this aspect up here. And so Estella, she's going, I wouldn't say that, and maybe she, in the movie, it doesn't really look like she finishes this off real quick. But now, there is something that I want to show. Actually, I think she does go through this, and then she starts to kind of get her initiation through here, but there has to be a death, right? And so she possibly went through this whole initiation, but when her mother died, she that was a sacrifice, that was a death, right? And so that was just an identity of her, which was in reality, which was her mother, which is why I went back to the association of the fountain. Okay. So now we're speaking about water energy. Well, there is something called the abyss, which lies right here. And the reason why this is here and why this is here is because these are two aspects, right, of what is called the abyss in Kabbalah. And once you start learning about the tree of life and death, or the Sephiroth and the Clipoth, which is the more accurate names, and mind you, this is what we're all working on. We're just all in different aspects. Some people might be here and some people might not get out of here because they are not initiating themselves to move forward. And some people might be somewhere up here and they don't know because they have initiated, but they're very unconscious of where they're at currently. So this would be considered the Dath portal, and this would be considered Dath down here. Now, like I said, this really is like a reverse aspect, meaning like this is the front and then this would be the back, but they show it in this aspect to show you the tree and the roots. Okay. So this is just an inversion of this, which should actually be flipped. So like it shouldn't be like this. It should actually be like this, so the front and then the back, which would be the tree of life and the tree of death in that aspect. And so the water that she's kind of like associating her mom to is the abyss, right? And so she lost her mom to the water. She kind of had to like go through a death herself, like and she had to, go through that like death. So the one thing that a lot of us, we kind of really may not understand, but like to manifest, you do need death energy to manifest. Um, and so if that's the case, then she manifested a whole ego, you know, which would be the persona that she displays, you know, as far as, and then it's crazy because the one mask that she wears, which is Estella, even though she's born Estella, she doesn't resonate with Estella. Estella is actually star. Estrella in Spanish is star. So Estella is really a star, meaning star, right? And this would be a star. This would be a star. So she's pulling on both of these stars, right? And the association that she speaks to water means like she's literally pulling from these energies. All right. So this is why I said this was going to be a pretty decent one. But let's go back real quick because I kind of just would like to finish off, even though this might be a little bit of a long one, but it's definitely worth it. All right. So this is why I was speaking about her fair skin, okay? So it still goes back to the clip off.
The word out about her personal exploits. Meanwhile, Horace and Jasper find the Dalmatians as they are being given baths, and they use Wink as bait to
I
get
love
them to
that
come out
dog.
before taking them away in a van. Cruella soon begins to crash many more events held by the Baroness, and with Anita covering it in the paper, Cruella becomes a fashion sensation, completely upstaging and overshadowing the Baroness. She grows more and more agitated, even firing her lawyer.
So the paper said, "Is Cruella the future?" Now, remember, I had spoken about the fact that Cruella is a visionary, right? She is a revolutionist in the fashion industry, something unheard of, which would really be competition to the Baroness. And mind you, the Baroness is considered like the highest fashion in London. Now, where's my phone? Let's look at the fashion during that time. So, fashion era. So, it would be considered 70s London fashion scene. And so, in a sense, right, Cruella is stating that she is the future. Like her fashion is the future. But more than her fashion, she's kind of giving like it's kind of like a teaser, like who's staying and who's going. You know what I'm saying? Um so yeah, so let's keep watching real quick.
Roger for failing to have Cruella arrested, then instructs Estella to come up with a new design for an upcoming spring collection presentation. Estella orders a special material and creates the dress, which the Baroness is clearly impressed by. Although she plans to take credit for it, Estella has Horace and Jasper sneak.
All right. So the one part that she has lunch with the Baroness, and the Baroness says something um to Estella right there. So I just want to pinpoint out that this whole dress was hand sewn. Every single material on it was hand sewn. Now, this special material, if some of y'all have watched, will soon be disclosed. However, it looks like beaded work, and this is just the mastery. Okay, because at this point, this is not skill, this is mastery that Estella shows in her technique. This is what she can do. Now, it literally could take her all damn day and night, which, in the movie, it kind of like shows that she worked on it all day, and probably throughout the whole night. However, she mastered this, and this is not easy, right? And so what ends up happening is the Baroness is like in awe, and she's like, "Oh, I've done it again." But the Baroness is taking credit for Estella's work. She actually takes credit for all of these people's work because they work for her. So she's allowed to take their credit, right? This is what you would call narcissistic, very vampiric. Okay, and so there again lies the vampiric energy. Um, and then we'll soon see where she gets that energy from.
Impressed by, although she planned.
And right here, okay, so right here, the Baroness cheers to herself because she always cheers to herself. And she says specifically, well, who else would I cheer to? Like it makes no sense. Who else would I cheer to? And Estella says, well, me. And she said, honey, all you are is a tool. That's all you are. You're only good to me until you're not. And that kind of like, that was actually a blow to hear, but it's very realistic in the eyes of like corporations, in the eyes of narcissists, because narcissists have a very vampiric nature. And when you are no longer a supply for a narcissist, it's called narcissistic discard, right? And like they discard you like you ain't shit. So, yeah, all that plays in.
Plans to take credit for it. Estella has Horace and Jasper sneak into the house of Baroness and create a commotion to make it appear as though Cruella tried to break in, leading the Baroness to have her dresses stored inside a top-secret vault. Back at home, Estella's increasingly arrogant behavior has begun to put a strain on her relationship with Horace and Jasper. The Baroness holds her spring collection show, but when they open the vault, a swarm of moths fly out, having torn through almost all the dresses. This is because the material with which Estella made her dress were special cocoons. Outside, Horace and Jasper.
All right. Oh. All right. So this was a big indicator right here. Now, I want to go ahead and say something real quick. I want to rewind it real quick because y'all just don't understand. When I saw the moths, I was like, wow, this is definitely what we would consider
A swarm of moths fly out, having torn through almost.
Okay. So this is when I realized, oh shit, this is actually a dark energy. Now again, I'm not sure if anyone is aware, right? But a caterpillar does not always become a butterfly. There is a point where the caterpillar either becomes the butterfly or becomes a moth. The butterfly is a symbol for life, right? Or light. And the moth is considered a symbol of death or darkness. Now, the fact that she specifically chose moss, okay, not only was it part of the plan to destroy the spring collection so that she had nothing to put out, basically ruining her whole show, but they were moths, y'all. Like, here. That's when I was like, yo, this is definitely death energy. So I'm going to see if I can pull up some meanings real quick. All right. Now, it is a form of transformation, that energy of transformation. Because again, the caterpillar it comes to a crossroads. And I'm still trying to figure out what determines um oh, this is a good one. What determines and how caterpillars either become a butterfly or a moth, right? So that's a whole different process that I have to kind of like tap into. But so according to wikihow.com, right, here are just a couple of things that it says about moths. So moths are assigned to trust your intuition. Moths are nocturnal, okay, and they can find their way around in the dark. So like I was saying, um moths represent change, transformation and growth. Here it is. Many cultures see moths as symbols of death, believe and believe that they bring messages from the afterlife. So there's actually called like, look at Luna moths are um, pale green or lime green. They represent resurrection and rebirth. These are all technically energies that I would say also go with the tree of death because rebirth, resurrection, transformation, this is all aspects of the clip off, right? And this is what I started realizing like, damn, dude, I'm really watching like the transformation of Cruella into her authentic self, which is or Estella going through the transformation through the clip off, right? As her authentic self, because these are all of the energies that are popping up in this movie. So this movie really is in regards to why I titled it The Ego and the Authentic Self is because she's really working within the tree, the Kabbalah tree. And the Kabbalah tree really shows like how Estella was working the different archetypes as the so how she was working the different archetypes was when she was creating different personas for herself and she was like, you know, working the different angles. And this is why I said it's kind of indicative of the archetypes in the Kabbalah tree of life. However, the minute that she decided to start working with her Cruella side, which is her real authentic self, that's when she started bringing up all of these energies of death, transformation, rebirth, and obviously resurrection, right? So we'll keep going. Almost done.
All the dresses. This is because the material with which Estella made her dress were special cocoons. Outside, Horace and Jasper, accompanied by Artie, put on a real show, where Artie sings, "I Wanna Be Your Dog," and Cruella emerges with a dress made of Dalmatian fur, leading the Baroness to think that Cruella killed her dogs. When Estella returns home, she finds Horace and Jasper tied up, with the Baroness and her henchmen having deduced that Cruella is Estella. The henchmen grab Estella and tie her to a chair. Estella fires back, as she knows the Baroness killed her mother, but by her words, she is implied to have killed others when she doesn't immediately know who
Mm.
Estella is talking about, with the Baroness planning to have Horace and Jasper framed for killing Cruella in a fire. She leaves Estella, plus Buddy and Wink, to burn, but Estella sees a mysterious figure coming to get her. The place burns
Mm.
down, and word spreads that Cruella has died. Estella wakes up in John's house, along with Buddy and Wink. He brings her Catherine's necklace and lets her know that it's been thoroughly bleached, which to Estella's surprise, and it contains a key to a box. Inside the box is a birth certificate of Estella's. John then reveals that the Baroness is Estella's true biological mother. Although the Baron did want children, the Baroness thought being a mother would hinder her success, so she ordered John to have the baby killed after she was born. But he instead found Catherine and gave Estella to her so she can be raised properly. Estella is in disbelief and runs away, stealing a motorcycle from a delivery boy.
All right. So I had to pause it real quick because this was the point that I was speaking on, that Estella was only a facade based off of now her knowing that the Baroness was her real mother, her biological mother. Again, she now can see how she really reflects her mother. And so this is another form of ego death, right? Now, mind you, the whole time in this movie, all Estella is doing is dying to her ego, dying to her ego. She's getting all of these identities ripped away from her, literally. And that's what the journey of the Kabbalah tree of life does. It literally strips away all of these identities that we have claimed for ourselves, you know? So we have no identity until we are just a raw form of ourselves. And you're definitely like, the ending of this movie definitely just shows that, you know? And this is why I absolutely love this movie. I had to do um a whole video based on just this movie because that's how deep this movie like got me into it. Like, it's crazy. The first time you see a movie, you don't really you're just watching it, right? You're trying to like learn the movie, whatever. Second time, a couple of things stand out a little more. Third time for me, it's like code, 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 code. I'm like, wow, I just see the energy. I just see how this plays out. Like, I'm just breaking the movie down layer by layer by layer. And this is the reason why movies actually are made, because they show us codes and they show us all of these intricacies and symbolism throughout the whole movie, right? But little do we know that this is just a form of like communication, saying like, this is, Estella is all of us. You know what I'm saying? Estella is like what you would consider all of us. And we're the ones that have to also go through this journey. And yeah, like, it's, this movie was so deep, but we're gonna finish because I think we just have like a couple more minutes and then I can literally break the rest of it down.
She rides back to Regent's Park where she addresses the space as Catherine. While she is in
Remember the
disbelief and
fountain,
being lied to about
the
Catherine not being her
water.
mother, she still viewed her as such, and now decides to embrace her new identity as Cruella. Estella
Embrace her new identity. What was I just saying? So, Estella was the identity that was given to her, right? How many of us, um, and maybe not quite a few of us, right? But I know like there are some of us that feel like the name that we were given, even though we chose it, there could, like, some of us resonate with a different name. Some of us resonate with like a nickname, right? Cruella would technically be her nickname, right? Estella is the birth name, but the birth name, like, we could have many names. We have many names, right? We have a middle name. We have a nickname. We have, I don't know, we have a YouTube, a username. We have all of these names that we've created for ourselves. However, now she identifies herself only as Cruella. So the last portion of that layer, I would say, is her not even identifying as Estella. Like, she doesn't even identify by that name. That name was literally given to her by the Baroness. So she doesn't even identify with that, you know? All right, let's keep going.
Blood gets a truck and busts through the front of the police station, then sets Wink inside to get a key to Horace and Jasper's cells. Although they break out, they are still mad at Estella for how she treated them. After she tells them about the Baroness being her real mother, they go back to John's home, where she says that Horace and Jasper are her family. They then
Mm,
gather to come up with a final plan to bring down the Baroness, and Estella later goes to Artie for help as well. Horace comes back with the Baroness's Panther de Ville
mm.
car, and Estella likes the sound of the name. The Baroness hosts another ball, where all in attendance.
Okay, yeah. Hold on. Before we get any deeper, this is a great shot, by the way. We'll get into that real quick. But Deville. Now, Horace, which is the heavier set brother, he says, "Oi, this what does he say? This car is called the Devil." And then Jasper says, "Deville, mate, Deville." And he was like, "Oh, it's called the Devil." Now, it's a Deville, right? But it's like embracing it's Cruella embracing her dark feminine energy. Plain and simple. She embraces that devilish, wicked side of her. Essentially, she seeks out revenge, right? Um, from the Baroness just being nasty herself. Um, but yeah, so then Cruella devises this whole thing and invites everyone to basically uh wear the same costume. And at this point in the media, it says that Cruella died from fire. She died of fire, y'all. Let me just say this, right? Here is the point of resurrection. Now, okay, how can I say this? To die in a fire is basically like a purification process, or like what we consider a transformation, right? So death by fire, but then she's not died. She has not died. So there comes to a point, and maybe it'll show it, but all of the wigs, everyone in the audience is dressed as Cruella because it's almost like a tribute to Cruella's death, right? To Cruella, because Cruella is the only person that ever challenged the Baroness as far as fashion. She's the only one who ever was a competent competitor, and the Baroness even acknowledges that she is her most worthy adversary, right? And so, in many forms, Cruella actually tops the Baroness, which is why the Baroness goes through all of this to get rid of Cruella and kill her, or whatever the case may be. And so they're paying homage. They're paying homage to Cruella now, okay? Because she is someone who made a name for herself, who started revolutionizing the era of fashion.
Attendants are wearing wigs to honor Cruella. Estella grabs a pin and pokes the Baroness, distracting her long enough to grab her dog whistle. She uses it to bring the Dalmatians outside by the cliffside. Horace, Jasper, Artie, and John gather people to start heading outside. Estella gets
Okay, one thing, right? So during the time, and they don't show this, but during the time that the three Dalmatians were held up at Estella, Horace, and Jasper's home, Estella started showing dominance over the Dalmatians. And so the Dalmatians actually they listened to Estella, Cruella, okay? So they listened to Cruella. And I think it's because of the likeness and attitudes of Cruella and the Baroness. And so that likeness was able to be transferred over, right, to the dogs. So, mind you, the dogs show loyalty, but they show loyalty through dominance, right? And so it's almost like, and this personally is how I feel, but if you show dominance to a dog, then the dog shows um right. They show like they obey, right? And this is just exactly what I was saying. I was trying to get the word out, but I just used the same word. So, anyways, um, so it's gonna show that the dogs. So she's blowing the whistle. The dogs start running over, and the Baroness thinks that the dogs are gonna run and push Estella off the cliff as a part two, to her mother or to Catherine, which was her adoptive parent. But that's not quite how it works.
the Dalmatians to obey her, and then reveals to the Baroness that she is her daughter. The Baroness once again takes credit for Estella's talent, and pretends to want to take over the business alongside her. She approaches her as if to hug her, but instead pushes Estella over the edge. This is witnessed by everyone. Luckily, Estella prepared for this, and she uses a parachute to stop her fall. As the Baroness is being arrested, Cruella arrives, once again surprising everyone. Estella, through narration,
All right. Now, again, hold on, y'all. Okay, solicitors here in the UK are considered lawyers. Solicitors are lawyers, okay? So I know that because my sister and best friend, she lives in the UK and they call lawyers solicitors. Interesting. Because we call solicitors something completely different, but solicitors are people who sell their services. Um, so a Cruella arrives once again, surprising everyone. This is what you would call a resurrection. A resurrection. What were the moths considered a spiritual meaning of? Okay. La 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 la. I have to go up. Many cultures see moths as symbols of death and believe that they bring messages from the afterlife. Moths can represent change, transformation, and growth. There was something that specified rebirth as well, but I'm trying to find that real quick. Oh, okay. Luna moths. It said that Luna moths are like pale green or lime in color, but it's more of the moths itself, right? Moths, but they're in this case they're speaking about Luna moths. Um, specifically represent resurrection and rebirth. So even though the moths that we seen in the movie are not necessarily green, but they're still representative of a death energy, a death, rebirth, resurrection, transformation energy. And the Luna moth, in this case, is what I'm speaking on, but not necessarily from the movie. They also go back to the goddess Luna, right? In Roman, her name is Luna. In Greek, her name is Selene. Um, but that's also a feminine energy. That would be considered a feminine energy. So, yeah. So let's keep going. We're almost done.
Reveals that she bequeathed her will to Cruella, knowing that Berenice would try to kill her, which now leaves her with her mother's fortune.
Mm.
Cruella holds a funeral for Estella, then takes Horace and Jasper plus Buddy, Wink, and the newly adopted Dalmatians back to the estate. Together with John and Artie as part of the team, Cruella tells the brothers that she has some big plans in store. Cruella leaves a Dalmatian puppy named Pongo at Roger's home, and another named Perdita at Anita's home.
So cute.
Roger, who has now become a songwriter, begins to write Cruella's iconic theme song. In 1964.
Okay. So what they don't show, and we'll get out of here because we're done with that. So thank you. um, what they don't show though, which I was kind of upset that they didn't show, but toward the end, right? So Cruella gangs her mother's estate. She then goes to the entrance of the estate. And in the beginning, we saw it said Hellman Hall, right? Because the Baroness's name was Baroness von Hellman. Cruella decides to take off the man, and it just leaves Hell Hall, as to say and signify that she has reached the bottom or the top of the clip off, whichever way that you want to view it. Meaning that she is now in the mansion of hell. Like she is on her throne. And so she even had to go through killing off completely her ego, which is why she buried Estella. Okay. So this really kind of shows the the significance of the Kabbalah tree, life and death, right? And this movie. And in order to here, and we'll pull it up real quick. So in order to all right. In order to cross this right here, right? This is called the abyss or death, right? This is the abyss. and then this is death. So in order to cross death, she literally has to die to her ego completely. Literally, it's the last layer of herself. And so what did she do? She buried, literally, she buried Estella. She died to Estella, no more Estella, okay? And she moved into what, I mean, you could consider Moloch or Thamiel. Now, interesting because Moloch is opposite of Lilith. Now, when you start to do more research, you'll notice that Moloch is just another name or another aspect of Lilith. So, in if you do research on Moloch, there were a lot of babies being sacrificed to Moloch, right? There is a movie, I think it's called Lilith. I literally think the movie is called Lilith. But it's about these little babies that a spirit kept taking, and she would take the baby's souls and she would leave the baby, and the baby would be like blue, like it would be completely blue, like dead, you know? And that's Lilith energy. So this is the same energy as this. But anyways, we're not speaking about that. I'm just saying, like, in reference to this and this, they're very much the same entity, if you want me to be honest. But yeah, so she literally now resides at the, some would say base by looking at this, you know. But again, if you look and just kind of like make this behind this, then she'd be sitting at the top, which would be literally like the palace, you know, sitting on the throne. And that also means that she would literally have completed her journey. She is authentically herself. She is authentically Cruella. I would say that she no longer has any reason to put up any mask because she's already done the work, the light side and the dark side, you know. But this is now what her hair represents, is literally the mastery of herself, you know. So that is my whole entire take on this absolutely wonderful, very symbolic, and very deep movie. You could thank Disney for that, because Disney always gives us these really coded messages within these movies. And Disney does a lot of what you could say like spell work in their movies. But like, if you have the eyes to see, this is why I said we're free to see, because we really are, you know. And that's basically the overall energy that I like to be in, is having the eyes to see, not being disillusioning, or bringing down the veil so that we can actually see what's really going on. So I hope, family, you enjoy this breakdown. I do apologize. It's about close to 2 hours long. However, there's so much symbolism that even that 10 minutes I kept having to interrupt because there was so much. Remember, that's only a 10-minute video, and it was literally trying to summarize a whole hour and some change of a movie, which is kind of hard enough. And a lot of the details is what really makes me go into depth about the movie and the message that's being conveyed. But, anyways, I wanted to say thank you to everyone again. And this is Aurora Divine. Catch me next time. Peace and love to everyone. And I'm out. Take care, y'all.